In this tutorial we're going to be learning 5 essential crochet stitches that will level up your crochet skills, starting with the Alpine stitch. To get the beautiful texture of the Alpine stitch, we're going to be learning a skill called front post stitches, and when we get there I'll take you through them step by step. So start by making a slip knot using your preferred method, and then make a chain that is an odd number. It can be any length you like as long as it's an odd number. For the purposes of this tutorial I'm going to go for 15. So I've made my chain of 15 and now I'm going to crochet the first row, and the first row is a setup row, so it's not the same as the rest of the stitch. So make a double crochet, that's a US double crochet or a UK treble crochet. So we're going to make a US double crochet in the 4th chain from the hook, so this chain here. Then make a double crochet in each chain until the end of the row, and I will meet you there. So here I am at the end of the setup row, and I just want to make a quick note that that chain 3 that we used at the start of the row, we're going to count that as a double crochet from this point forwards. So to start the first row of our 4-row repeat, make a chain of 1 and then turn your work over. That chain of 1 does not count as a stitch. Now work a single crochet into each stitch across the row, and your final single crochet will be in the top of our starting chain from the setup row. I'll meet you here and we'll move on to the next row. So this is what your crochet should look like at the end of our 2nd row total, but it's the 1st row of our pattern repeat. And we're ready to move on to the 2nd row of the pattern repeat. To start the row, make a chain of 3. This counts as your first double crochet stitch. Then turn your work over. Because we're counting this chain of 3 as the first double crochet, we're going to skip this first single crochet here and crochet the next stitch into the next single crochet just here. So into that stitch, work a double crochet. We're now going to learn front post stitches. Specifically, we're going to learn a front post treble crochet. Usually when we work in rows, we put our hook into the top of the stitch underneath the 2 loops that form a sort of V shape at the top of the stitch. To make a front post stitch, we're going to put our hook somewhere else. So to make a front post treble crochet, yarn over twice. Then we're going to put our hook around the post of the double crochet below the next single crochet. So this is our next stitch. We're going to go 1 stitch down, so this double crochet here, we're going to go around the post of the stitch. To do that, we go into the space between that stitch and the stitch to one side. So I'm going in, if I pull this apart, I'm going in that space there. So I'm going in there. And then I'm going to bring my hook up the other side of the stitch. So this is the post of the stitch and we've gone around it from the front of the crochet. Then yarn over and pull that yarn over first to the back of the crochet and then to the front of your work like this. So if you can see, we've made our stitch around the post of that double crochet. We're now going to finish off the treble crochet just as we normally would. So yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. So that was a front post treble crochet. I will show you it one more time. So we're going to have a look at those stitches from the top now. So we have just kind of skipped this stitch here, and into the next stitch we're going to make a normal double crochet. So I'm not making my double crochet in this stitch here, we're going in this stitch here, so that one there. So if I show you, this treble crochet kind of counts as that we've worked in that stitch there, so we're going in this stitch to make a double crochet here. And we're going to, for the rest of the row, we're going to alternate between a normal double crochet in the top of the stitch and then a front post treble crochet into the around the post of the double crochet 1 row below. So I'll show you that front post treble crochet into the stitch 1 row below again. So yarn over twice, put your hook into the space. So we would usually work in this stitch, so we're going down to that double crochet, put our hook into the space to one side of the stitch, bring the hook up the other side so that we're working around the post of the stitch, yarn over and pull that loop to the front around the post of the stitch, then finish off the treble crochet as normal. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Then double crochet in the next stitch. So remember, we skip this stitch here and we work a double crochet into the next stitch. We're going to repeat this all the way along to the end of the row, alternating between double crochet and front post treble crochet, and come back to this tutorial before you work that final stitch, because our first and last stitches are a little bit different on this row. So this is what your crochet should look like once you're almost at the end of the row, and as you can see, those front post stitches give a really lovely texture. So I've stopped just before I do the final stitch because according to this stitch repeat, we were alternating between double crochet and front post treble crochet, but our first and last stitches of these rows where we're doing front post stitches is just a normal double crochet. So I'm not doing a post stitch around that last stitch, I'm just going to do another normal double crochet. This just makes sure we have a neat edge to our little swatch that we are doing to learn this stitch. Okay, so now we're ready for row 3 of the pattern repeat. Row 3 is exactly the same as row 1, so chain 1, turn and then single crochet in each stitch across, and your final single crochet will be in that turning chain at the end of the row. Then come back here and I'll show you what we do differently for row 4. To start row 4 of the 4-row pattern repeat, chain 3, this counts as your first double crochet, then turn your work over. We're going to skip that first single crochet because we're counting that chain as a stitch. We're now going to make a front post treble crochet around the post of the double crochet 2 rows below. So we're skipping this stitch here and then we're going to move on to the next stitch, go 1 row below. That is the double crochet we're doing our front post treble crochet around. So I've yarned over twice, I'm going to put my hook to one side of that stitch and come up the other side, then work that front post treble crochet. So yarn over, pull a loop through to the front, finish off the treble crochet as you normally would. There's our front post treble crochet. We're then going to do the same as what we did in row 2 and alternate between normal double crochet and front post treble crochet. So I'm going to do a double crochet in the next stitch and then a front post treble crochet around the post of the next double crochet, and these stitches are a lot easier to work out which stitch we're doing the front post around because we're not doing them around these front post treble crochets from row 2, we're doing them around the double crochets between them, and that's what gives this lovely texture. So yarn over twice, make a front post treble crochet in the double crochet between the front post stitches of that row. So I'm going to do that front post treble crochet and then a double crochet in the next stitch and work like this all the way along until the end of the row, and I will meet you here. So I've just finished row 4 and I finished with a double crochet in the final stitch of the row below, and then to continue working in Alpine stitch you're going to repeat rows 1, 2, 3 and 4 over and over again until the length you desire. As you add more and more rows, the pattern really takes shape, and as you can see, those sort of alternating front post trebles create this really beautiful texture that works so well for blankets. Let's move on to our next stitch. The next stitch technique we're going to learn are cluster stitches. Start with a slip knot using your preferred method, and then your starting chain needs to be an even number. For the purposes of this tutorial, I'm going to do a chain of 14. So to start our first row, we're going to make a cluster stitch in the 4th chain from the hook. And there are lots of different kinds of cluster stitches, which I will explain a little bit later. But for now, we're going to make a 3 double crochet cluster, and that's often abbreviated to a 3DCCL in written patterns. So to make that 3 double crochet cluster, yarn over and put your hook into the 4th chain from the hook. Yarn over and pull up a loop. You should now have 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over and pull through 2 and stop. So what we've made here is a partial double crochet. We've stopped our crochet just before the final yarn over and pull through of that stitch. So this is a partial double crochet. You can also do partial stitches of other crochet stitches like treble crochets. So we're now going to make 2 more partial double crochets into the same chain. So let's do that step by step together. Yarn over, put your hook into the same chain, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2 loops. We've just made our 2nd partial double crochet. Now work 1 more partial stitch into the same chain. Yarn over, put your hook into the chain, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. So we've now made 1, 2, 3 partial double crochets into the 4th chain from our hook, and we've got 4 loops on our hook. So to finish off the cluster stitch, yarn over and pull through all 4 loops on your hook. So the essentials of a cluster stitch are that we make however many partial stitches into the same stitch, and then at the end we pull through all the loops on the hook, and that zips these partial crochet stitches together at the top, forming a bit of a point, and these are often used as, say, petals or leaves in crochet patterns. So let's work one of those cluster stitches together again. So chain 1, then skip the next chain, and we're going to work another 3 double crochet cluster into the next chain. So yarn over, put your hook into that chain. So I've skipped a chain and then put my hook into the chain after that. Yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, and again yarn over, put your hook into the same chain, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, and one last time, yarn over, put your hook into the chain, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops on your hook. You should now have 4 loops on your hook, yarn over and pull through all 4 loops. So we're doing a 3 double crochet cluster here together, but you can actually make cluster stitches with as many stitches as you like and different kinds of stitches. So for example, you might make a 5 double crochet cluster where you do 5 partial double crochets into the same stitch, then yarn over and zip them all together at the top. Or you might do this stitch with treble crochets, for example, so maybe a 3 treble crochet cluster, and do our treble crochets to the last yarn over and pull through to make a partial stitch, and then once you've done 3 in the same stitch, you yarn over and pull through all the loops on your hook. It's a really easy stitch once you get the hang of it, and it is so beautiful. So to continue on with this stitch pattern, we're going to continue like this along the rest of the chain. So we chain 1, skip 1, and then make a cluster stitch, that 3 double crochet cluster into the next chain, and repeat this all the way along until the end of the chain, and I'll meet you there and I'll show you what we do for the rest of this stitch pattern. So here I am at the end of the row, and my final stitch was a cluster stitch into the last chain. We're now ready to move on to the second row. So for row 2, we're going to be repeating this row over and over again for the rest of our swatch. So to start row 2, chain 3, this does not count as a stitch, then turn your work over. We're then going to work a cluster stitch into the chain 1 space of the row below. So we're not working in any stitches in this row, we're just working in those chain 1 spaces. So we're going to work one of those 3 double crochet clusters together. Yarn over, put your hook into the space, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, put your hook into the space, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, put your hook into the space, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. So we've now got 4 loops on our hook, so yarn over, pull through 4 to finish off that stitch. And then next we're going to chain one. So we're going to chain one, we're going to skip the next cluster stitch and work a 3 double crochet cluster into the next space. And you're going to repeat this all the way along the row, working a cluster stitch in the space, chain one, cluster stitch in the next space, chain one, all the way along, and I'll meet you at the end of the row. So I'm almost at the end of the row and I just want to show you where we put our final cluster stitch. So I've just done a cluster stitch in the last chain one space. Then if you remember, we have our cluster stitch from the row below, and then there was a chain 3 here where we started row 1, we did a cluster stitch in the 4th chain from the hook, so we skipped 3 chains here. So what we're actually going to do is we're going to make a cluster stitch into that space there that the chain 3 is making at the edge of our work. So I just need to do a chain 1, and then I'm going to do a cluster stitch into that space there. So there's my 3 double crochet cluster, and that's the final stitch of the row. So this is what your crochet should look like. So we're going to repeat row 2 over and over and over again until the swatch is the size that you want it to be. At the end of every row, make sure you're doing the final cluster stitch into that space that the chain 3 at the start of the row below causes. So our final cluster will always be in that at the end of every row, and we start every row with that chain 3. Apart from that, we do that cluster stitch chain 1 all the way across. The third stitch we're going to learn are bobble stitches, and as you can see they create this really interesting texture on the surface of the work, and these are actually formed using the cluster stitches we learned in the last stitch. So this stitch pattern is a 4-row repeat, and we're going to be alternating between rows of double crochet and rows of bobble stitches, and as you can see the bobble stitches are slightly offset from each other, which is why this is a 4-row repeat. So let's get started. Start with a slip knot and then make a starting chain that is a multiple of 4 plus 1. For the purposes of this tutorial, I'm going to go for 17. So for row 1, work a double crochet in the 4th chain from the hook, and then work 1 double crochet in each chain across until the end of the chain, and I'll meet you there at the end of row 1. So this is what your crochet should look like at the end of row 1, and then you have a choice here of whether you want to change colours or not. I like changing colours because it really makes the bobbles pop, so I'm going to change colours here. You can use any method you like to change colours, but I'll show you how I like to change colours for this stitch. So I'm going to chain 1, and that helps me fasten off, and I'm going to cut my yarn if I knew where my scissors were. Then I use my crochet hook to pull the end through that chain 1, I give the end a pull, that tightens that chain and fastens off that colour. So to join in a new colour, I'm going to turn my work over, ready to work row 2, pull up the end of my next colour, then put my crochet hook through the top of that stitch, lay the yarn across my hook and pull up a loop. I've now joined the next colour, ready for row 2. So start with a chain of 1, this does not count as a stitch, then work a single crochet into the same stitch. We're now going to crochet our bobble, and to make our bobble we're going to make a 4 double crochet cluster into the next stitch, and when we make a cluster stitch on a row that's all the other stitches are single crochet, that causes the bobble to pop out on the back of the work. So I'll show you what that looks like. So we're going to make our 4 double crochet cluster. So yarn over, put your hook into the stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, put your hook into the same stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, put your hook into the same stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, put your hook into the same stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. So I've now made 4 partial double crochets into the same stitch, and I've got 5 loops on my hook. Yarn over and pull through all 5 loops on your hook. Now we're going to make a single crochet into the next stitch, and this will cause the bobble to form. So I'm going to work a single crochet into the next stitch, And as you can see, that's pushed the top of the last stitch down. And if I have a look on the other side of our work, we have a bobble stitch formed. So let's continue on with this row of bobbles. So I've made one single crochet. I'm going to make a single crochet in the next 2 stitches. And then I'm going to make another bobble by working a 4 double crochet cluster. So 1 partial double crochet, 2 partial double crochets, 3 partial double crochets and 4 partial double crochets all into the next stitch. Yarn over and pull through all 5 loops on your hook. Then work a single crochet in the next 3 stitches. So repeat this along, working a bobble stitch and then 3 single crochets, and I'll meet you near the end of the row and I'll show you how we finish off this row. So here I am towards the end of the row and I've just worked my final bobble stitch. Then I'm going to work 1 single crochet into the top of that turning chain from the row below, because we work double crochet in row 1, so that counts as a stitch. So I'm going to work a single crochet into the top of that starting chain there, just like that. And I've finished row 2. I can then fasten off my yarn just as we did previously, and then I'll show you what our row of bobbles looks like. Ta-da! So there are our 3D bobbles. So let's continue on with the stitch pattern. I'm going to get the same colour as I used for row 1 and I'm going to join it to the first stitch just as we did at the end of the last row. So I've just joined that colour to the first stitch and we're ready to start row 3. For row 3, make a chain of 3, that counts as our first double crochet stitch. Then work 1 double crochet into each stitch across, including the bobbles. So to work a double crochet in the top of a bobble stitch, if we have a look at this from the back, it's easier to see the 2 loops at the top of the stitch from the back here. So I'm going to put my hook in there. Turn that around so you can see that's where I put my hook in when I'm crocheting in the top of a bobble to make a double crochet. Then we double crochet in the single crochets and the bobbles. So do this all the way across to the end of the row. Your last double crochet will be in that last single crochet, and I will meet you there where we'll join another colour and do another row of bobbles that is slightly different from row 2, and that makes the 4th row of our 4-row repeat. So here I am at the end of row 3 and I've snipped my yarn and fastened off just as we did previously, and then I'm going to pull up the end of this yarn and join it to the first stitch just as we did previously, but first I need to turn my crochet over and I'm going to join my yarn to that first double crochet there. So there's my next colour joined, and to start the next row, chain 1, that doesn't count as a stitch, then work a single crochet back into that same stitch. Then work a single crochet into the next 2 stitches, so we've now worked 3 single crochets total. Then work a bobble stitch, so that 4 double crochet cluster in the next stitch, exactly the same as we did on row 2. And from this point forwards of this row, we're actually going to continue the same as what we did with row 2. So we make a bobble stitch, then 3 single crochets, a bobble stitch, and then 3 single crochets. The difference between row 2 and row 4 is row 2 we started with 1 single crochet, then did a bobble. For row 4 we started with 3 single crochets, then did a bobble. So continue working those 3 single crochets, bobble stitch, 3 single crochets, bobble stitch until the end of the row, and I'll meet you there. So here I am almost at the end of row 4, and my final single crochet is going to be in the top of that turning chain from the row below, because we counting that as a double crochet stitch. That's my last single crochet. So at the end of the row I've got 3 single crochets after a bobble stitch. I'm then going to fasten off this colour, turn my work over, put my hook in the first stitch and join yarn just as we've done previously. Then I'm going to do a row of double crochet, and we're going to repeat this over and over and over again. So we do a row of double crochet, then we do row 2, we do a row of double crochet, then we do row 4, double crochet row 2, double crochet row 4, and that's how you get these beautiful bobble stitches. I think this would work really lovely as a cowl or a scarf. So let's move on to our next stitch. The next stitch we're going to learn is a spike stitch, and this is a really fun colourwork stitch and it's much easier than it looks. Start by making a slip knot using your preferred method, and then for this stitch your starting chain needs to be a multiple of 4 plus 2. So for the purposes of this tutorial I'm going to go for 14. Next, work a single crochet in the second chain from the hook, and that first chain does not count as a stitch. Then work a single crochet in each chain across, and I'll meet you at the end of the row. So I've worked a single crochet in each stitch across and I'm ready to start row 2. So rows 2, 3 and 4 are all the same. Chain 1, turn and work a single crochet in each stitch across. So we're going to work 4 rows of single crochet total, including row 1. So I'll meet you at the end of row 4 and I'll show you how we do these spike stitches. So there's my 4 rows of single crochet and I've fastened off just as we've done previously, and I've got my next colour ready to join. So start by turning your work over and joining your next colour to the first stitch, just as we did in the previous stitches. So this is the row we're going to be doing these spike stitches. Start with a chain of 1, then work a single crochet back into that same stitch. Then we're going to do a spike stitch in the next stitch. So we're going to not work underneath both of the loops at the top of the stitch like we normally would. We're going to follow our stitches down. So this is the next stitch and the stitch below is here, and I'm going to put my hook into that stitch there. So if I zoom in a little bit here so you can see exactly where I've put my hook, and I'll come out and go in again just so we can see it a bit more easily. So I'm going in there to make the next spike stitch. So to make the spike stitch, it's the same as a normal single crochet, but we've put our hook in a different place, a little bit like we did with the front post stitches. So I'm going to yarn over. So I'm now, my hook's at the back of the work, so I've not brought my hook to the front like with front post stitches, I've just gone through my crochet completely. I'm going to yarn over and pull up a loop, and I'm going to keep pulling on that loop so it's fairly long and it's up to the same height as the previous single crochet that we made. Then yarn over and pull through both loops on your hook. And that's our first spike stitch made. We're going to make another spike stitch, so we're going to be going 1 row lower every time we do one of these spike stitches to get this sort of like arrow shape here. So I'm going to look for my next stitch. This is my next stitch. I'm going to go 1 row below, 2 row belows. So for this stitch I'm going in that space there. So I'll zoom in again for you. So I'm going in there. And this spike stitch is going to be longer, so yarn over, pull up a loop and keep pulling until it's the same height. Yarn over and pull through 2 loops. So there's my next spike stitch that's slightly longer. So then I'm going to make a spike stitch 1 row below the last spike stitch. So I'm finding my next stitch and I'm following it down. So there's that stitch, and then 1 more row below that stitch there. Just there. So I'm putting my hook in there to make a spike stitch. I'm going to bring it up, that loop up to the same height, yarn over and pull through 2 loops. So as you can see, we've made 3 spike stitches at different points in the crochet, and you can get really creative with this, creating sort of wave shapes, arrow shapes, all sorts with these spike stitches because they're really fun for colour work. So we're going to do a 4 stitch repeat across this row. So let's work that 4 stitch repeat together. So I'm going to single crochet in the next stitch. So this is not a spike stitch. Single crochet in the next stitch. Then I'm going to do a spike stitch 1 row below in the next stitch, 2 rows and 3 rows below in the next 3 stitches. So let's work that together. So I'm finding the next stitch, following it down 1 row to that stitch there and making a spike. Then I'm going to follow it 2 rows below, so there's the next stitch, 1, 2 into that stitch there. And then the next stitch, so there's the next stitch, and I'm going to follow it 3 rows below, 1, 2, 3, so that stitch there. And then repeat this across to the end of the row, and you'll have 1 stitch left, so I'll meet you at the end of the row once you've done all your spike stitch repeats. So here I am at the end of the row, and I've repeated those 4 stitches over and over again to the end of the row, and after my last of the longest spike stitches that we've done, we then make a single crochet in that final stitch. So we always start and end with a single crochet for this stitch. So now this stitch is a 4-row repeat, so the row we just did was row 5, so the next 3 rows, so rows 6, 7 and 8 are all going to be straight single crochet, so chain 1, turn, single crochet in each stitch across until you've done 3 rows, and then you repeat one of those spike stitch rows. So if I grab my swatch, here is row 5 where we've done the spikes, and then we did 1, 2, 3 rows of straight single crochet, then a row of spike stitches, exactly the same as row 5. 3 rows of single crochet, a row of spike stitches. And here I've alternated colours, but you don't have to do this. You could use a new colour every time you do one of these spike stitch stripes. So I always change colour just before the spike stitch row, and that's what gives it that colourwork effect. So let's move on to our final stitch. The final stitch we're going to learn are puff stitches, and they're one of my faves. If I give this swatch a bit of a stretch, I'll kind of show you what a single puff stitch looks like. So this here is a single puff stitch, and it has texture and squishiness, but it's not as big as the bobbles. It's a little bit sort of softer and less pronounced than the bobbles, and we do puff stitches on alternate rounds for this stitch pattern. So let's get started. So start by making a slip knot, and then your chain needs to be an even number. It can be any number that you like. I'm going to go for 14 for this tutorial. So to start row 1, work a single crochet in the second chain from the hook. Then chain 1, skip a chain and work a single crochet in the next stitch. So chain 1, skip 1, single crochet in the next stitch. Chain 1, skip 1, single crochet in the next stitch, and then continue this all the way along your chain, doing chain 1, skip 1, single crochet, ending with a single crochet in your last stitch, and I'll meet you there. And then on row 2 we will learn puff stitch. So here I am at the end of row 1, and I finished with a single crochet in the final stitch. So for row 2, chain 3, this counts as 1 double crochet, then turn your work over. Now in this stitch we're going to be working puff stitches into the chain 1 space across. So to work a puff stitch, yarn over, put your hook into that chain 1 space there, yarn over and pull up a loop. And then what I want you to do here is keep pulling on that loop to extend it slightly to about the height of a half double crochet, or about 2 chains in height depending on what yarn and hook you're using. So I've pulled that loop up so it's longer than usual. Then yarn over, put your hook back into that chain 1 space there, yarn over and pull up a loop to that same height again. So I've pulled it up to the height of that last pulled up loop. Then yarn over, put your hook back into that chain space, yarn over, pull up a loop, and again pull it back up to that same height. You should now have 7 loops on your crochet hook. To finish off the puff stitch, yarn over and pull through all 7 loops on your hook. So that is our first puff stitch made. Next, chain 1, and that kind of brings the top of that puff stitch together. Next, skip the next single crochet and into the next chain 1 space there, work another puff stitch. So let's work a couple of these puff stitches together, because they can be really tricky when you first learn them, because it's all about having really good control of your tension, which is one of the trickiest things to master in crochet. So let's practice some puff stitches together. So yarn over, put your hook into the next chain 1 space, yarn over and pull up a loop. Keep pulling to the same height, so about the height of 2 chains or 1 half double crochet, so that's same height as the last puff stitch. Yarn over, put your hook into the same space, yarn over, pull up a loop to that same height, yarn over, put your hook into the same space, yarn over and pull up a loop to that same height. You should now have 7 loops on your hook. Yarn over and pull through all of those loops. Then chain 1. So let's work one more before I leave you to continue repeating this across the row. So yarn over, put your hook into the chain 1 space, yarn over, pull up a loop and keep pulling until it's about that same height we've done previously. Yarn over, put your hook into the space, yarn over, pull up a loop to that same height. Yarn over, put your hook into the space, yarn over, pull up a loop to that same height, yarn over, pull through all 7 loops on your hook, then chain 1. So repeat this all the way across your row until you've made a puff stitch into the final chain 1 space, and then come back to this tutorial so I'll show you what we do for our last stitch after our final puff stitch. So I've just done my final puff stitch, so I'm going to chain 1 and then work a double crochet into the top of the last single crochet. So we've done puff stitches all the way across, but I started with a chain 3 that counts as a double crochet. I'm going to end with a double crochet as well. So I'm going to work a double crochet into the top of that final single crochet from the last round. So now let's move on to row 3. So row 3 is a row of single crochets and chains. So chain 1, turn your work over, then find your first chain 1 space, so there, and work a single crochet into it. Then chain 1, then find your next chain 1 space between your puff stitches. So I'm going to grab these 2 puff stitches and pull them to find that space. I'm going to work a single crochet into it. And repeat this across, so chain 1, single crochet in the next chain 1 space. So continue doing that all the way along your row, and I'll meet you at the end of the row and I'll talk about what we do for row 4. So here I am almost at the end of row 3, and I realised that at the end of the row you should have this chain 3 from where we started our row below, and actually that's where we're going to do our final single crochet. We're going to do our final single crochet in that space there that's made with that chain 3. So that's our final single crochet for this stitch pattern. So for row 4, make a chain of 3. This counts as your first double crochet stitch, and then turn your work over. And then we're going to repeat row 2, and then row 3, row 2, row 3, row 2, row 3, over and over and over again until your stitch is the height you want it to be. And just as one final note, puff stitches look different on the front and the back. So this is the front of the puff stitch, the side that faces us when we're working it. And then this is the back of the stitch. You can see the puffs are slightly slanted. If you found this tutorial helpful, please give it a thumbs up down here, and I'll pop a playlist here of some more crochet stitches you might like to try next. I'll see you again in next week's tutorial.